record. So I want to thank you for coming. This is our 6th art docent lesson virtually, and I want to thank you for coming to this one. I know it was kind of a bit of a break with a spring break, and then some kids going back to hybrid learning, some kids staying remote, and just trying to figure all that out. So thank you for joining us. Today we are going to talk about this art piece right here, which is by a Native American artist named Joan Hill, and we're going to learn about her and her style of art. This is the sample of the project that I made, so we're going to be trying to recreate her art today, talking about the different kinds of artistic elements and principles of design that she used to make art. But first I want to go over our supplies. I want to make sure you have the supplies you need, because there are 2 things that you're going to need today that were not on your supply list. 2 things. The first thing that you're going to need, we did not put this on the supply list, is a pencil. So you're going to need to find a pencil or something to write with. And the second thing you're going to need is a cup with a little bit of water in it. Not a lot, but just a little bit for cleaning your paintbrush. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go find a pencil and a cup with water in it. Obviously, we could not put those in your packages. It would get very wet. I'm going to sharpen my pencil.
I already have those things because my mom probably thought that I would need water since I'm using watercolors, and I have a pencil right in here on my desk.
That is amazing. That is a great way to think ahead. Yeah, we didn't put it on there because can you imagine how silly it would be if we put cups of water inside your envelopes? That would not have been a good choice. And we hope everyone.
I guess you could have put cup on there and then just fill it out.
I could have put cup, but then people would be like, I don't have a cup. And then we'd be giving you cups. I don't know. And they wouldn't fit in the envelope very well. But we're assuming everybody has some form of dish, cereal bowl, cup, whatever. So hold them up if you got them. All right, good. Okay. So those are the 2 things that were not on the list. Now let's talk about some of the things that were on the list, and let's make sure that you have them.
Miss Griffin? I still need to get my supply, like my pencil and water bucket.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Then I will change my name because I want to change my name. I'm going to change my name to Mrs. Griffin, which I guess they technically did 18 years ago. All right, Mrs. Griffin. All right, those of you that are back, you should have a white piece of multimedia paper, mixed media paper. Okay, I think it's 8 by 10. I don't know. I didn't measure.
Is that like watercolor paper?
It's multimedia paper. What that means is it can be used for a lot of things. It's got some tooth to it. It's got a little bit of texture, so you can use it for watercolor. You can use it for markers. You can use it for pastels. Basically, you can use it for a lot of different things. You should also have one that's kind of yellow and one that's kind of orange. It doesn't matter if your orange or yellow match mine at all. Okay. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it's sort of these colors, that's going to work too. It's not really going to matter.
I couldn't.
All right. The other thing you're going to need is a 8-pack of watercolors. Let me see if you got them. Okay. If you have more than 8, good for you. If you have less than 8, hopefully you have the colors you need. You should also have a paintbrush. See, it's easier if I put it next to my head. All right. Paintbrush. You should have a glue stick. I have 2 because I think one of mine is getting close to running out. You should have brown acrylic paint and black. Switch that. I showed you the black first. You should have black and brown acrylic paint. It might be in a little tub. It might be in a container like mine. Okay, as long as you have black and brown. And you should have some form of paint palette. I'm using a birthday plate from my kid's birthday the other day. It doesn't matter what your plate looks like. It doesn't matter if it's little tubs. You just need something to do a little bit of mixing on. All right. So I think that's all of the things that you're going to need. Oh,
you also need toothpicks, Miss Griffin.
Toothpicks. The reason I left out the toothpicks is because after painting with toothpicks, I realized it is impossible to paint with toothpicks. But I will show you a technique that I use to make it kind of work. So if you have toothpicks, that's great. If you don't have toothpicks, then you're not going to have the same headache that I had yesterday. But we will practice, we will try. All right. So we're going to be creating this piece of artwork here, or recreating this piece of artwork kind of like this. And it's a step-by-step process, and it's a little complicated. But of course, before we get on to that, I do want to share a little bit of art history, and I want to talk a little bit about art with you first. So I am going to share my beautiful PowerPoint slideshow that I made at 11:30 last night. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you are seeing this. Excellent. So PTA art docent lesson number 6, abstract collage. And if you recall from last time, a collage is when you're taking different media and you're putting it all together. Maybe you're gluing paper on, maybe we talked about some artists putting trash on their canvases, or maybe you're doing markers, and maybe you're doing paint, and you're just basically taking lots of different kinds of things and putting them together into one piece of art. So that's what collage is. And we're doing collage today because we are doing paper and paint. So we're kind of sticking things together. And this is the art of Joan Hill, who passed away actually less than a year ago. So not that long ago. She's a pretty modern painter. And I have no idea how to make these things move forward. I imagine you would just press a button. Oh, there it is. Aw, so cute. It moves and dances around. All right. So here's Joan Hill, and I am going to apologize profusely because I do not know how to speak Creek-Cherokee. But she was also known as Chea-Se-Quah, and that means Redbird. And she was Oklahoma Muskogee Nation artist, and she specialized in intertribal flat style art. So stuff that didn't look three-dimensional, very, very kind of flat stuff. And intertribal means sort of, within the tribe, different kinds of elements of tribal art. She did all sorts of different things. She used oil paints and tempera paints and watercolor paints and pastels and pens and inks. So she loved being an artist and playing around with different types of art. And she has her art in several institutions, like museums all over the country. She was the very first woman to be honored by the 5 Civilized Tribes Museum. They called her a master artist. So she was paving ways in the community for female artists, especially within the Native American community. She she was considered one of the people of the century by the Smithsonian Institute. Very, very influential with her art. And I don't know, she was just really, really, really well respected. And a great artist. And so the piece that we're working on today is this one right here. And I think before we start working on it, I just want to talk about some of those elements of art and some of those principles of design that she used in this piece. Like when you look at this piece, who can tell me what you feel about it? Like before we even get to all of these words here, I just want to know, what does it make you feel? Go ahead and just unmute yourself and tell me what it makes you feel.
It makes me feel like it's fall and like it's kind of like ish time because there's an owl on the tree.
So you think it's like nighttime?
Makes me feel confused.
Makes you feel confused.
Makes me feel sad and scary, and it's fall. It makes me feel nice.
Makes you feel nice. Yeah. It feels a lot of things. It does feel very fallish because of the colors, the browns and the oranges, right?
You feel happy.
Makes you feel happy.
Makes me feel like I want to jump in the leaves, but we don't have any leaves.
See, so that's one of the things that art is supposed to do, is it's supposed to make us feel. And somebody mentioned that it feels like fall because there's an owl and there's no leaves and the colors are fall. So that is definitely a choice that the artists made to make this tree around this time of year and to use the colors that they used. So let's talk a little bit. So we talked a little bit about color. Let's talk about shape. What kinds of shapes do you see in this piece of art?
lines and triangles.
Lots of lines. You see some triangles. I see sort of some triangle shapes here, right?
I see a circle.
You see a circle. Where do you see the circle?
The hole in the tree.
Yep, there's a knot in the tree. There's a
I see
circle right here. What's this circle?
That's an owl.
The owl. And then there's another circle right here. What's that, do you think?
Sun.
Yeah, it's a distant sun. So there
Sun.
are some lines and there are some circles. Good eye. What else do we see? What other shapes?
I see the tree branches like different.
Yeah, they're all different. And so line is a really important part of drawing. I should have put line on here. There's lots of different lines here. We've got this basic shape tree. So we know trees, they start fat at the ground. And as they get taller, they sort of get thinner and thinner. So we've got this tree shape, which is almost like a triangle or a cone. We have, somebody said triangle shape here. If we look at the white, it's kind of triangular, right? We've got little sections here and there. There's shapes between each of these branches where the branches touch. Each one of these creates its own kind of organic shape. So maybe not ones we learn about in math, but they all hold different shapes. And I want you to look at this thing called balance. So when an artist talks about a balance, you're looking at a canvas and you're making sure that all the trees aren't in this corner or all the big things aren't in one spot. If you're kind of spreading it out, do you think that this has balance? If I were to hold a pin right here in the middle, do you think it would stay really sort of balanced?
No, that side, the left would tilt. There's more.
Yeah,
The
so you
top would fall over.
Yeah, so we see a lot more branches on the left side, right? That's what it looks like, and these are really sparse. But if you look, very heavy up here, but then you go down at the slant, and it's pretty heavy down here. So I think she was
The side, there's like the white walkway too.
We've got this walkway here, right? This looks like a walkway. To me, it looks like mountains in the background. Like here's a sky, here's the mountains, here's the ground. So we've got something jutting out this way. But if you look down here, we've got something jutting out this way. So she was trying to find a way to balance it. But you're right, it is a little heavier on the left. It's darker on this side. It's lighter on this side, which makes me think of emphasis. Where do you think the author wanted you to look? Where do your eyes go to first? Just tell me, Ava.
The trunk.
You picked the trunk. Why did your eyes go there first?
Because it's the middle of the picture.
It's the middle of the picture. Okay. Where else do your eyes go?
Where there's
The
more stuff.
branches.
The branches. Did anybody else where there's no, sorry?
Where there's more stuff, like where the pink down there is.
Yeah. Did anybody else's eyes go straight to this big pink blob? Yeah, some people did.
Pink blob anyway. Mine, my eyes went straight to the branches first.
The branches first. Yeah.
Mine went straight to the white, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like cream white.
Yeah, because look at the white. Everything else has all this color. And then where there's white, there's no color. It's almost like a negative space. It's almost like they're taking all the color out of there. And she's using that to add a contrast, which is this word you see down here. We've got dark, we've got light, right? And all of these colors, we didn't really talk about it, but would you say that these colors are mostly warm tones or cool tones?
Warm.
They're warm tones.
Warm.
Yeah. And even this this color here, this magenta color, is sort of a trick because the red in it is a warm tone, but it actually has a lot of blue to make that purple. So it's kind of peeking in a little bit of the cool in with these warm tones here. Even the brown of her tree is a more of a bluish brown. So she's sneaking in a little bit of the cool tones to add to our warms, just to give us a little bit of interest. And I want you to look at this. We talked about, I'll tell you about emphasis, like where your eyes draw, but obviously we want the artist wanted us to look at this trunk here. And then finally, rhythm or movement. Does this picture seem to be still or does it seem to be moving? Yeah, I see
Hayden and Parker,
Sydney's.
did you have a question?
Yes, I was gonna ask, what is the magenta thing?
We don't know. We know that this is an owl. This could be flowers. This could be, I mean, it could be anything. It could
Because
just
it
be a
looks
way to
like a
draw the eye.
person,
It could be a person curled up at the bottom. I don't really know what it is.
or just a blob.
Could be a blob. It could be any number of things. I'm sure that Joan Hill knew what it was or what it represented. I don't have insight into her mind.
And Grimani also had a question.
Grimani, what was your question?
I didn't have like a question. I like to have a comment. Like
Okay.
the orange, like I see the sun and like the orange, white, like dark orange. I think that was yellow. Like all those like the colors in the background, like I think the colors in the background represents like all the seasons, and the tree represents the tree of life, I guess.
Yeah, that is a really great, deep, thoughtful way to look at it for sure. When I look at this and I see the leaves, I don't think of this so much as like, you know, like when fall, you think of things are dying. I see movement here. I see these needles stretching out. I see the rhythm of the tree. I see the life of the tree. You know, it's not just hanging there, it's reaching out sideways, right? That's what the tree is doing. And so I don't know, I think it's a really, really good, a really, really interesting piece of art. And the last thing I wanted to draw your attention to was the line. And I want you to notice where the white meets the orange. And what has the artist done with the tree branches to delineate where the white and the orange meet?
She made a line.
She made the lines. She had tree branches follow the lines of these colors and so that it wasn't such a stark contrast. So everywhere there's a new color switch, she has used a branch or part of a tree to draw that line. Even down here, it's just a connection of tree branches. Okay, so the first thing that we're looking at is the shape, right? We have these two pieces of paper. I'm going to spotlight myself too. Bum, ba, ba, dum, bum, bum. So hopefully you can see me and this, but we've got these two pieces of paper that we're going to try to cut into shapes very, very similar to the one that we're going to see on the screen here. So, wait, am I a big head for you?
Yeah, you're on the big screen.
Okay, I'm on a big head because I'm not a big head for me, but that's all right. As long as you can see me.
Big screen because you're talking.
Good. And I will continue to talk. I'm so good at it. But I put myself on spotlight, so hopefully you can see me. So we're going to work on actually creating those shapes that we showed you earlier. So let's see. This is where your pencil is going to come in handy. So we've got our white piece of paper, right? And we're going to make it so that our orange is going to go on the bottom. That's going to be the bottom part of our picture. See, this is going to be orange. And we're actually going to be putting yellow on the top of our picture. So if you match them up, you'll see that they kind of line up perfectly. So half of the top is yellow and half of the bottom is orange. And we're going to basically sketch on the shape that we want our tree to be. And we know that there's a little bit of a gap, and we're going to start at the left. We know that there was a gap of white. So I'm not going to start at the very bottom. I wish I could make this closer. I wish I had a zoom button. I could just zoom in. I mean, I am on Zoom. It's ironic. All right. Sydney, do you have a question?
Yeah, my orange and yellow are bigger.
If your orange and yellow are bigger, here's what I will suggest for you. I want you to take your, let me see if I can find a regular piece of paper here. All right, here's a recipe for how to make beef stew. Oh wait, no, we'll use marshmallow fondant. So if your paper is big like this, I want you to just fold it in half and I seal this with my fingernails, whatever. Or I guess you could cut it too, and just rip it in half. Just rip your paper in half or cut it in half, because the big papers is not going to help if it's too big. We want to make sure that it's basically the same size as your underpiece. So no matter how big your papers are, it should be that your yellow paper takes up the top half and the orange paper takes up the bottom half. And it really shouldn't be any bigger than that. If it is bigger than that, that's okay. We can trim it down later, but it's going to be easier. All right. So I want you to grab your yellow piece.
Do I trim it?
Yep. I'll give you about another 30 seconds or so. Good job. Good job, Grayson. That's a really good ripping, Grayson. All right. So hold them up. Okay. And you're going to take your pencil and you're going to take your yellow piece. What color? What color?
Yellow.
Thank you.
Yellow.
Aw, you're so cute. All right. I'm going to find a bigger book. Okay. So you're going to have your yellow piece of paper and you're going to go to this bottom corner and you're not going to go quite to the very bottom. You're going to lift it up and we're just going to draw a line, just a little tiny line in. And we want to make this line sort of bumpy because, there were branches there. So I'm not even quite halfway. Then I'm going to go kind
Do
of
we just do this on the yellow piece of
just
paper?
the yellow right now because the lines were different. You're going to kind of shoot up and across. We're getting closer to the middle. It's okay, Grayson. It's all right. Your lines can be anything that you want. What we're looking for, though, is it's going to go taller in the middle and it's going to cross. And then you're just kind of bumping it all the way like that. So you're going to have something that looks a bit like that, kind of like a backwards Oklahoma, which is a state. So here's the sort of the shape that I drew on my paper. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. Yep, hold it up. Yep. Sydney, I want yours to go a little bit taller even. See, they've got this whole thing. So I want yours to go even higher up. Take up your space. You're not going to go all the way to the top, but you're definitely going to go. See how I'm kind of in the bottom and then I go up, not quite to the top. I want to make sure I'm using a lot of my space. Because remember, wherever the yellow is, I don't know. See, I dropped my down. Basically, this section here is going to be white. This is the section that's going to stay yellow on your paper. This section eventually is going to be white. All right. So once you're done with that, grab your orange paper. Grab your orange paper. Okay. This way is going to be kind of the opposite. The orange one's got a slightly different shape. You're going to start instead of the bottom left, you're going to start in the top left. And you're going to sort of make your line across. You get closer to the middle, you're going to drop down. You're going to give it like a little elephant trunk. What? And then you're going to drop it down this way. See?
Can you make it a little bit darker?
I'm holding it closer. Can you see it better now? So you sort of start at the top, but not quite. You drop it down and it makes like a little.
Looks like an anteater.
Looks like an anteater. I don't think that mine came close enough to the middle, so I'm going to make it go a little bit wider, which is okay. I'm just going to play with it because I know that this is my tree trunk is going to go over it, but I have
okay?
Yep.
Mine kind of looks like a platypus.
That's cool. You could definitely have your own little Perry the platypus in there. All right. So these are your basic shapes. It doesn't have to be perfect because the thing about trees is they're all different and backgrounds are all different. All right. So that was a complicated part, but not too hard. But this, my friends.
I'm still doing it. Can you please keep showing it?
With the orange? Okay. I'm going to do my best. What? what I need
Should
is
I
like,
should I make mine darker?
it doesn't matter how dark your lines are. In fact, we'll probably end up erasing them. So, okay, this was the hard part or the easy part. Are you ready for the hard part of this? All right. You are going to try to rip on this line as best as you can. So I take my little,
Please cut.
you can cut if you want to cut. I didn't say you had to have scissors. I'm going to try to rip, and I just put my thumb and my finger together, and I just sort of pinch little bits at a time, and I try to follow the line, which I think is going to be really impressive because I can't even see my line because,
Do we just cut or rip it on the orange piece of paper, or do we
we're going to
cut on
do
the
that to
yellow
the
piece of
yellow
paper?
too. So go ahead and take a few minutes and try to get your shape on the sort of cut out or ripped out. I like ripping it out because it's fun, but also, I don't know. I didn't want to make everybody have to get scissors. Ooh, this is complicated here on this bottom part. Again, I can't really see what I'm doing, so I hope I'm close.
I made mine bumpy, like a little bit more bumpy, and so it's gonna be really hard for me.
Yep. That's why I did my orange first, because that one's a lot less bumpy. My yellow one's bumpy. Just do your best. And remember, mine, I did not rip perfectly on my line, but that is why I have erasers. Yay, erasers. They're my best friend. And my line isn't gone entirely, but that's fine. But in the end, I've got this little shape.
Mrs. Griffin,
Mm-hmm.
can I show you something I made?
Yes. Oh, that is a pretty adorable. And when I think of 70, 80-degree weather, I think of snow people.
I finished stripping them out.
All right, so I'm almost done, and then we'll go into the next step. I'll give you a hint. The next step involves glue sticks.
Okay, great.
This is my orange. Kind of looks like it.
If we're gonna be almost done,
All right. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and Miss Tiffany or I will answer it for you. If for some reason you don't know how to type questions, now would be a great time to practice. All right. So I've got my yellow, my Oklahoma cut out. I already lost my pencil. That's okay. I have another eraser. All right. Now that we've got our pieces cut out or ripped out, or we're getting close, you'll never guess what the next step is. Actually, we'll guess. We'll be gluing it on. So you're gonna make it, so make sure you don't glue it on backwards.
wait, we haven't done the yellow yet.
Oh, do the yellow. I almost put the wrong piece on. The part I ripped off is the part I almost glued on. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. You gotta definitely want to put the top half on, whatever that means. So it should look something like this. Maybe more like Idaho. All right, so it should look something. Yeah, good.
It looks more like Idaho.
Yes, yeah, we've got some Idahos happening over here. All right, so you're gonna when you're done with your yellow, you're going to the part that you don't have pencil on, the part that has no pencil, that's the part you're gonna glue. So you're gonna take your glue stick and you're gonna go on the outer edges. The outer edges, because you want the edges to stay flat. So
Why do we use our paper? For like parchment paper that is different colors on each side. This
Okay.
one's yellow, and this one has become brown. What did we glue it on? Okay.
the yellow, yep, Grayson, that's fine. You're gonna glue it onto your.
Supposed to do
Okay.
hamburger or hot dog way.
You're gonna do it portrait. You're gonna do it the tall way. And you're gonna glue your paper on so that this jutting up part is on the right-hand side. So the part that has more paper will be down on the left, and the part that has less yellow will be up on the right. It looks like a little puzzle piece maybe, or you're just gluing a random shape on. It doesn't really matter. You're gluing this onto your paper. That's what you're doing. I'm pretty sure I glued mine
Is
onto
it
my
the one
paper
with the
backwards.
more of the yellow or less?
Why don't you look at my paper? You want one that's got a big chunk on one side and just a little bit on the other. Like this one would have been too small. Like if I'd done it this way, it wouldn't have worked out. It would have been too short. So you probably the one with more. I mean, I can't really see, this one isn't quite right. It's too small. I needed one that was a little bit bigger. Since yeah, so use use the big
Mine
one.
will not fit.
Hayden and Parker use the big one. If it doesn't fit, match it up as best as you can, and we can always trim off the edges if there's extra.
I think I might have did it wrong because it came out like this.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
That'll be fine. All right. So
Is it okay if yours doesn't all?
Yep. Yep. Turn your paper the other way, Kaylee, so that it's tall instead of. Okay, no, turn it the other way. You're right. Flip it. Yeah, that's the way. If it doesn't go all the way, that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. This is our own little world of art. Yeah. Student number. You got your hand up, but I don't see your name. Yeah. What's your name, bud?
My name's Preston.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay, Preston. What's your question?
So I have to glue this together because I didn't rip it perfectly.
Okay, that's fine. Anything you need to do. Remember, art is supposed to be fun. Don't be stressed if something's too small or too short or whatever. That's fine. Piece it together. You could collage it. You can stick a bunch of yellow pieces together if you need to do it. Do whatever you need to do to make it work. Sydney.
My yellow piece is longer than my paper.
Then you can trim that. Yep, trim the corner right off. Okay, then you're going to glue your orange onto the bottom half. So I'm going to find the side that does not have pencil on it. And I'm going to glue that in. And my little tiny part that sticks out is going to go on the right-hand side. So I'm going to match up my bottom left-hand corners as best as I can. Glue in the outside of my orange. Ba-ba-ba-da. And I am just putting that right into place. So what you've seen now, hopefully you can see that I've got my little gap here of white. I've got where my little stem for my tree grows, and I've got sort of these white mountainish areas or whatever in the background. So I've sort of created my negative space.
Does the orange piece have to go on that side? Because I have pencil on this side.
Yeah, the pencil is fine. You can go ahead and erase it if you want. I've still got some of mine. If the pencil doesn't erase, that's fine. We are going to paint over it a little bit, so it will be dulled. But remember, we're also going to be putting a ton of branches on here. So pretty much any marks that we have on the paper, you're not really going to see that much because that's not our emphasis, right? That's just going to be a side effect. Our emphasis is going to be our tree trunk. It's going to be our spots of red. It's not going to be our pencil marks. No one's going to care about those because that's not what the art is about. So you should have something that looks sort of like this. Sydney, that's perfect. If it doesn't look exactly like this, that's fine, right? You're just going to have something that has these two sorts of, like this sort of style. Germani?
I'm not finished cutting. I just finished the red one. Now I'm cutting the yellow one. Can you slow down?
I will try to slow down, but we only have 22 minutes. So I sort of have to keep working forward. So I'll tell you, I'll do this next part really slowly. How does that sound? Okay. But because we don't really have a lot of time. And we have a lot of tree left to do. All right. So this next part, it's going to be a little bit easy, and you got to be a little bit brave. Let me see if I can get as close as I can get. And maybe I will have to be using some Sharpie here. It's okay. I have to be super brave with Sharpie. Super brave. And I'm just going to sketch my tree. Okay, so I know.
Are we going to be using Sharpie?
You're going to be using your pencil. I'm using Sharpie so you can see it better. Okay. And I wish I could make this easier. Okay. So I do know that the bottom of my tree is going to kind of go over this way, and it's going to follow the curve of my orange, right? I know that. And I do know that I want the top of my tree to be sort of somewhere in the middle. And I want the side of my tree maybe to follow this drop here. So I'm just going to draw sort of a straight, flat down tree trunk. I'm going to draw it up to the side here. I'm going to go all the way to the top, and it's going to get a little bit skinnier as I go to the top. See, my tree is going to kind of go down like this. It's going to go like this. It's going to just kind of do maybe like a weird wonky thing over there. And that's basically going to be my tree trunk. I wish I could make it closer for you. See, how much closer can I get without knocking this easel into my lap? Okay. So it follows the curve of my orange. And it goes sort of straight up, but gets skinnier as I go. Okay. When your tree trunk is drawn, we are going to make 3 circles on our yellow paper. Right above the line where the white meets the yellow, you're going to draw that tree knot. So mine's going to be a little bit higher than the one in the sample, but that's okay. Right here toward the top, I'm going to draw the circle or the oval for my owl. And then somewhere on the side, I'm going to draw my circle for my sun. I'm putting those there as a reminder not to paint those areas. So you're going to have a tree knot where your white meets your yellow. You're going to have an oval up toward the top where your owl goes. And you're going to have a circle somewhere in the middle left, and that's where your sun is going to be. Good. I see tree trunks. I see circles. Beautiful. Nice. Good, good, good. All right. This next part isn't very tricky, but it is a little time consuming. So we are going to be painting our red blobs. We're going to be painting this a little bit orange, and then a little bit orange. And I think we'll be leaving this. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is we're going to start with our red. And the tricky thing is it's not really red. It's more of a red and a purple. So this is where you get to do a little bit of color mixing. I have nice clean paints. And so sometimes what I do is when I mix my colors, I do them here on the side. Or sometimes I mix them just right in my paints because I know that when I'm done, I'm going to clean it. So you have to decide, are you going to mix your colors off to the side or are you going to mix them in the paints themselves? It depends on if you are responsible enough to clean your paints afterward. But we're going to make a reddish purple. And what that means is we're going to get our brush wet. We're going to get our purple wet, nice and wet. We're going to get lots of purple paint. And then we're also going to get our brush wet and we're going to go in the red. And we're just going to mix that red and mix that purple. Just mix them, mix them, mix them, mix them until you get a nice reddish purple. Because remember I told you we had some cool tones in there, and that's where the purple comes in. And so you're going to get that nice reddish purple. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to fill in your little owl spot. Your little owl spot. And then we didn't really put in a shape for that bottom splotch of purple. All I know is that I kind of want it down here. And I'm just going to paint that as much as I can. This paper is a little less porous than the one I had at home. So it's going to be harder, I think, to get these colors to stay. But you're just going to create a big blob. If you can't see the color very much, give it a minute to dry and put on another layer. Or use less water. Okay.
What does porous mean?
Porous means it absorbs water. So this paper has it's very, very flat. It's got like this, there's no teeth to it. There's no texture, which means it's almost smooth, which means the water doesn't like to get sucked inside. Most construction paper has like a little toothy feel to it, which means the water can suck in and it get absorbed in, but this one isn't like that. This is more like a copy paper or something. So it's not great for our needs, but we'll just do what we can do. If the red isn't working, maybe just try going straight for purple. Ooh, if my second layer is straight purple, it gets so much darker. Did you see that? So my second layer was just straight purple and it got dark.
Does the black paint come off of you?
The watercolor paint should come off of you. If you're in the acrylic paint, that will come off your skin, but will not come out of your clothes. So do not get that on you. Okay, so again, if your first color isn't showing up, make your second coat just pure purple, and I think that'll work a lot better. So that's all we've done so far is our blobs. Does everybody have their blobs done or close to getting their blobs done? Yeah, I don't even know what shape I'm doing. Just like, ha, lots of red and purple. Who cares? All right. It's art. We can do whatever we want. The next color that you are going to use is orange. You're going to use orange. And we're going to paint this whole section orange, except for the trunk and except for your sun. Do not paint your sun orange. We want to keep it nice and bright. So I'm going to get, again, lots of water on my brush. I'm going to go into orange, and I am just going to paint the yellow paper. Try not to paint your white paper. We want to keep that as white as possible. And we're just basically adding a layer just to give it a slightly darker color. Again, this paper is not very porous, so it's going to look like...
Are we adding orange to our yellow paper?
Yes, you are putting orange paint on your yellow paper.
Okay.
That's it. Orange paint on your yellow paper. And I'm doing only on the right side of your tree trunk. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do on the left side.
Is the circle highest to the top of the paper, is that going to be the same color as our blob?
Yes, this one is the same color as the blob. That's your owl.
I couldn't make my orange light. I have like a darkish orange.
That's okay. That's totally fine. For the other side of this, I'm going to do orange, but I'm also going to be mixing it with yellow. So I'm going to be doing that thing I told you where you can mix it on this thing here, or you can mix it inside. I dip my brush in orange and then I swirl it in yellow, and that gives me a nice lighter orangey yellow color, like a dandelion. And I want this just to be slightly lighter than my orange. And it might not look that way. It doesn't really look that way on camera, but it is just a slight bit. And I'm going to paint everything except for the tree. And I am not going to paint my sun because I want my sun to be that bright, bright, pale yellow. So I'm going to paint around it. And if I feel like it's too orange, maybe next.
On the first side, did we just do plain orange?
Yep. On the first side, I did plain orange on the right side. And on the left side, I'm mixing orange and yellow together. I want it to be a little bit lighter just to give it a little bit of just a different feel. And the separating color, of course, is going to be the tree trunk. So, and it's okay. You're going to see that your paper is going to buckle a little bit, like make ripples and waves, and that's okay. It'll dry flat. So again, it's just a little bit of orange, mostly yellow, trying to keep it a little bit lighter, and I'm going to stay on my yellow as much as possible. And this just adds a little bit of texture and color and makes it slightly just a little bit different, you know, a little different, a little more interesting. Got to be careful around my owl. Got to be careful around my sun. Oh, yep. My owl's bleeding onto my color now. No, owl, no. That's what happens with watercolors. Sometimes if they touch, they spread. It's okay. I'll just spread this color out and have a little bit of a darker color over in this corner, which is totally fine. Thanks, owl.
Where's our owl? I can't see it.
Your owl's going to be in your you were supposed to draw an oval right to the top left of your tree.
Is it a red color?
It's that red color. Yep. It's that reddish purple. Okay. Whew. So there we've got that color going. La la la. I've kept my sun a nice bright color. You can see that. And for the bottom, we don't really have to, we're not really going to paint too much of this, but we are going to add, we're going to go back to that orange paint and we're going to add it, we're going to mix it with red. So we're going to go orange with red, and this is going to make a red-orange color.
I just mixed that color, then I just realized that I already have that color mixed.
Oh,
right
you
here.
might.
Can you slow down a little bit? I need to do the other side of my yellow.
Yes, I
I'm
can.
still working on that too.
Yeah. As soon as I'm done painting this, I'll give you a break to catch up. I just want you to know that the bottom is going to be a red-orange. So the top is an orange-yellow, and the bottom is going to be a red-orange. And so for those that are caught up, you can do that. And then once I'm done with this, and I'm just going to paint down to my glob, my red glob. This just gives...
It has more work.
This is just kind of a fun thing. You know, you're not limited to the colors that you have in front of you when you do art. You can always change the shape or the texture.
Wait, are we adding red to the orange down there?
Yep, I'm adding red to the orange down here, and I'm sort of cutting it off at my blob. So
Could you just slow down a little bit because I'm still trying to catch up.
Yep. I'm gonna just finish painting this, and then I'm gonna stop for a minute. Let you catch up.
But I get that you have to go fast because
I know. Time. The good news is once we get past the tree, the rest of the stuff you can sort of do on your own, which is great. So I just need to get through the instructional bits.
I'm also typing the instructions in the chat. If anybody feels like they got a little bit behind and can't remember what Miss Griffin said, you can peek at the chat and the instructions are in there too.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yeah.
I added some orange to my
Oh, that looks really cool. It's very cool. Yeah, you can definitely play with your colors and your tones. Keep it with your warm toned colors and you'll see some pretty amazing things happening, I bet. I like the idea of adding that orange up there. That was pretty cool.
Do you know
I
that
mean-
I used to just think of art like painting a normal picture like a house, but I didn't really know that so many people like broke the rules of regular art.
Right? Isn't that fun? All I'm doing down here, you don't have to do this at all, is I'm just putting orange on top of orange. Nothing special. You don't have to do it.
red or is it orange and red?
Orange and red. Orange and red. And then on the bottom, because I'm bored and I'm waiting, I'm just doing orange on orange, which you
It's
totally don't
different.
need to do.
Can I show you something?
You can. I saw that. That looks really cool. It's very, very similar to what we're doing, isn't it? Ba-ba-da-da.
You want to see what I have so far?
I can see some of you painting up front. Those are great. These colors are amazing. And yeah, the instructions are in the chat. They're very lovely instructions. Thank you, Miss Phillips, for that. I just like seeing colors, color names. It's cool. It looks like this part looks white because it's so shiny and wet. Those are amazing. Okay. I'm going to give you, let's see, what time is it? Well, we only have 6 minutes. Guess what? We're going over today. That's all there is to
I
it.
have a question.
Yes.
You know our little like purplish reddish blob
Uh-huh.
by the tree trunk?
Uh-huh.
Not the owl, the tree trunk.
Yeah.
And I painted the orangey red on top of it. Do I paint it on the bottom of that
I just painted a regular old orange on the bottom.
too? Everywhere else, which is not.
Yeah. I just painted orange. You don't have to paint anything. It's already orange. I just painted orange on orange, which is kind of redundant, but I did it because, you know, why not? My glue's coming up. I'm going to have to glue mine down again when it dries. Sometimes that happens when your glue gets wet, it unsticks. We do
We
need
paint the bottom red.
the bottom I painted orange, but I kept this white part white here. And I didn't paint my trunk because I don't need to.
I use glitter glue.
Perfect. All right. So I have to move on. If you're not ready, I'm so sorry. You can watch the video later. You're going to need your brown acrylic paint. It might be a little thick. I know that Mrs. Phillips tried to water it down a little bit. If it is, the thicker it is, the harder it is to work
We don't
with.
have blue acrylic.
You should have brown paint. Brown paint.
We
Did I
don't
say
have that.
blue? If you don't have brown, use black.
Is this our like acrylic paint?
Yep, these are your acrylic paints. I don't have those tubs, but yeah, this is an acrylic paint. Mine is a little bit thick, but that's okay. My brush is gonna be nice and wet, and I'm just going to get some brown paint on my brush.
Are we supposed to put the brown acrylic paint on the plate?
You can if you want to. I would, because especially if you're going to get it wet, you don't water the whole thing down, or you can do it straight out of the tubs. I don't have a tub, so I put it on a plate. I mean, you may not have to use the plate at all. But you should definitely have the brown in a place where you can access it easily. It's hard to scoop onto a plate a little bit. You can usually scoop up. What I do is I hold my plate right under, like right under, and then I scoop it directly over the plate so that if some falls, it falls onto my plate. You do not want this falling into your lap. I promise. You do not want this on your clothes. You do not want this on your couch.
Apron.
Nice.
My
You don't want
mom,
this on your
She
carpet.
has these like
Nice. Yeah, those little tubs are going to work just fine. So you can use your
tree trunk.
Yep. So what you're going to do now, we've already outlined it, is we're just going to paint just the trunk. We're not going to worry about branches right now. Make sure that you do not paint over your knot hole. You're going to want to keep that knot hole the color below. Oh, except for, you know what? We forgot to paint that orange.
My bottom is like really, really big, and my tree is like
Perfect. Because all trees are different.
Painted a little bit over the yellow.
That's okay. I'm trying to be very careful around my knot hole, which we totally forgot to paint orange, which we'll have to remember to do as soon as we clean off our paintbrushes.
I have 2 different paintbrushes.
Ooh, if you have 2 different paintbrushes, paint your knot hole orange. I'll be doing that as soon as I'm done with my tree trunk. I will be
I have
painting.
like this many paintbrushes.
That is amazing.
Thousands.
All right, so you should be painting your tree trunk.
I have this.
Doing these art lessons has actually inspired me to
To do different types of art. I hope so. Or to be an artist. Actually, we're all artists, right? We're here, aren't we?
Is it okay if I paint like the orange, like where the orange paper is brown?
Yeah.
Can I like should I paint? Can I like paint like the bottom red part of my tree?
So don't paint the red part, but you are going to paint this little section down here where the paper is orange. If you've drawn your tree outline, you're going to paint all of that. So this orange paper, you're going to paint brown where your tree goes.
my brown on the orange. It looks like it's gray.
That's all right because trees come in lots of different colors.
I'm really
Yeah. So keep painting. If your paint is too thick, mine is too thick, I just keep getting my brush wet. The wetter your paint is, the smoother it will get. But if you get it too wet, it's going to be thin. So it's about finding that perfect balance of thickness and like ease, like how easily you can smooth it on.
Could it look like?
I'm
Do we
also
paint?
okay. Let me tell you that if you notice, I'm painting in vertical stripes. And the reason that I'm painting vertically, which is up and down, is because tree bark grows vertically. And so if I'm going to have little paint lines left on my tree, I want it to look like bark. So I'm going to have it go up and down. Try not to dip your hand in this, by the way. All right. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. And just keep working on your tree trunk. I definitely need to keep adding water to mine. Acrylic paint is plastic based and it will dry on your brush pretty fast. So if your brush is starting to like not do what you want it to do, just dip it in water, get it a little bit wet, and then dip it back in the paint. It dries super fast.
I did it. My God.
I finished painting the tree.
Man, you guys are faster than I am. Not you guys. Gotta stop saying you guys.
I have a big brush.
Oh, well, that's good. I do not have a big brush. All right. La la la. All right. So my tree trunk is painted. I'm gonna wash my brush off really, 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 really good. Really, really good. Get all of that brown off. And I'm going to paint the knot of my tree orange because I forgot to do that earlier. Make sure my brush is sort of dry so that paint doesn't drip everywhere. I got to be super careful now because I've got brown paint. Whew.
I didn't.
So it's
Can I
like
change my water out? It's
you don't need to change your water out because the only color we're working now is with brown. And if your orange knot hole is a little brown, that's perfectly fine because guess what? It's a tree. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is the lines of our big branches. And we're going to work on those spots where the color paper meets the white paper. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting my paintbrush, I'm getting my paint a little bit wet. And then I'm twirling my brush on my paper. I'm spinning it. You can't really see it that well. But by spinning my brush, I'm getting my brush to come to a point. So I'm spinning it so that my brush is as skinny as it can get.
Is it with black or with?
This is still with brown.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the outside edge and I'm going to follow the curve of the paper and I'm going to make this into a branch. Now, the cool thing about branches is that they're going to get a little bit fatter when they get to the tree. So right now I just have a skinny line. And when it touches the tree, I'm just going to make it just a little bit fatter. Just a little bit fatter. Right? So that it looks
My
more like a
favorite
branch.
That.
You're going to do that on every place where your colored paper touches your white paper. You're going to follow the curve of that. You're going to follow the curve. So even here, I've got like this crazy bumping happening here. It would be so much easier if my paper had stayed glued down. It's okay. I'm going to make a branch here. Sometimes it's going to take more than one pass. Branch. I'm going to make it a little bit fatter up top, like a real branch would be. I'm going to go down here, give it a nice big sideways branch.
So are we like using our brown paint and are we,
You're only using your brown paint and you're making branches. Yep.
so we're just kind of like tracing our colored paper?
Yep. For this step, we are just tracing the colored paper to make the branches match the, that differentiation in color here. Yeah, that little.
What do you do when you trace all of them?
I'll tell you in 1 minute, because make sure you get down here too.
I don't have down there.
If you don't have down there, then
Yeah,
and that should be pretty easy. So this is just the basics. Now, remember, we have an owl. This poor guy is just sitting on nothing right now. So I'm actually going to make a branch up at the top of my tree that's going to kind of curve down and support my owl. So my next one is just, and it could be as curvy or as straight as you want it to be. And you can decide if you want it to go all the way to the end of your paper or if you want it to stop. I want mine to stop short. I also know that I want branches to frame my sun. So I'm actually going to make a branch. I'm going to make 2 branches. I'm going to have one that goes over my sunshine and kind of drops in front of it like this. Whoop. Make it nice and fat next to the tree so it has some support. And then I'm going to make a second. And maybe this one is going to go under my sun. And right now we're going to really just focus on the left side of the tree. Remember, we knew that there were a lot of branches on this side, right? Because we talked about how you felt like it would fall. So I'm just going to make random branches. Maybe this one's going to split. One will go up and maybe one will go down, but like way down. Okay. Maybe I have one just going right here on the top, right over my owl's head. Maybe. You get to decide where you want to put these branches, where you want them to go and how you want them to look.
Can we put branches in the orange area too?
Yep, we're going to get there. Right now we're focusing on the left-hand side of the tree.
What do you think of my
I only have like
branches?
3 branches on my.
Look, I even have some short ones here. On the right-hand side of her tree, remember, those were short branches and there weren't a lot of them. So on this side, the longest branch is going to be the one that stretches out here. So maybe there's a little branch that branches off of it. Maybe there's a couple little guys here. These are going to be smaller and shorter. These are going to be smaller and shorter. Maybe a little guy right here. Maybe this one's a little bit longer. Okay. And then we're just going to keep working our way down the tree. You're going to add branches here in the white space. You're going to decide how far they go. You're going to decide if they drop down. You're going to decide if little branches come out of them. And you're just going to
really curvy.
Yeah. So you figure out what you want to do with your branches, and we're going to add branches to the rest of this tree, just the big branches. Okay. Big branches. Maybe I want another little guy right here. I like the little branches. They're adorable.
Can I add my branches to the orange paper?
Yep. So once you have your trees on your yellow paper or whatever, make sure you get your branches on your white paper. And then go down to the orange paper. Decide where you want big branches, where you want little branches. And you're going to work your way all the way down. So this tree is kind of a fun and special tree because it has branches that just seem to go sideways and stretch out to the side. And in real life, we don't see that a lot. So that's what makes this tree a little bit whimsical. You know, it kind of takes us away from reality, but it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, right?
Is this what it should look like?
Yes, that looks great. So,
I can't fit any more branches.
yeah, probably. So now when you're done with the branches, Grayson, I'll start at the bottom is you're going to look at the root system. And the roots are the part of the trees that you know holds the tree to the earth. And so you might want to start.
Mine's like not really look.
Yeah, so you may want to start framing maybe you want to start framing your red blob down here with different branches, little roots. Maybe you have roots growing out of your tree going down.
Also, after it dries, turn it over and write your name on it.
Yeah. So right now we're making roots or branches. Make sure, here's my roots going down into the earth. They're a little bit skinnier maybe. Maybe they're a little bit, you know, more pulled downwards, whereas the branches kind of go sideways. Maybe our roots pull down. Okay. And our roots stretch and stretch. I'm having a hard time because my paint is so thick. So I have to keep adding more water to get my roots to stretch.
I don't have room for roots.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have room for roots, that's cool. They're underground. Everyone's is going to look different, which is just fine. I kind of like the idea of just cutting off my little red blob here with some weird looking S-shaped, snake-shaped branches. It's kind of fun. Maybe I'll have one coming up over here. One over here. You get to pick. You get to pick how far you want them to go.
All
what
of
shape
my
they are.
branches and roots.
All right. So let me catch up to you real quick, and then I'll show you what the next step is. Because of course there's a next step, because why wouldn't there be a next step when we're already over our allotted time budget? Why wouldn't there be? So the cool thing about this particular artwork, what really drew me in, and we didn't really talk a lot about it, was the fact that the branches were intertwined. They were almost like holding hands, I like to think of it. If you look really carefully, you can see there's lots of places where the branches come together. Do you see those vertical lines? So we've got our horizontal side to side ones, but occasionally we have vertical lines that connect our branches. And I think this is her statement of how we're sort of all connected. We're all interwoven and all of our lives sort of touch each other's lives. And so what you can do when you're done with your branches is you can make little thin lines that connect your branches to create different spaces. So I'm just doing little lines here and there, connecting my branches. Maybe I'm drawing new branches out of those. And I'm just trying to make my tree feel like it's all connected, like one big tree, but just all of the little parts work together to make it whole. And I think that was just like a really cool statement that she made. And it's also cool because we don't really see that a lot in nature. You know, we always expect our tree branches to look a certain way or to do a certain thing. And so it makes it a little bit more interesting for people looking at the art, like, oh, why did the tree branches connect like that? That's so interesting. And you're like, because we're all interconnected. It's all very metaphysical, metaphorical. No, every artist tells a story. Everything that they create, it's a story. It's part of themselves.
Is it like this to connect them?
Yeah, that works. That totally works. Absolutely. And then you can also connect down here with your roots. You know, connect inside your blobs of color. If your branches are too far apart, make little skinnier branches right in between them and connect those with little tiny pieces here and there. You know, how do you want that to look? You can even have them connecting across this divide here, this white divide. I definitely have more of my branches connecting on my left side than I do on my right side because we already talked a little bit about that balance. It's just a little bit thrown off.
Are we gonna color the rest of the background because I accidentally got some brown on
Well,
it and
if you want to do that, you can. That's not part of this particular lesson, but if you want to do that, you can because it's your art, right? So we're keeping this white here for contrast, but if you want to make it brown or something to just make it a different sort of picture, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. All right. So this is basically how we're going to leave this. And I am going to show you why you have the black paint and why you have the toothpicks. And then I'm going to kind of let you go and have at it at your own. So I'm taking a little bit of my black paint, just a tiny bit, and I'm sticking it onto my paint palette. And the idea was that we were going to use the toothpicks to create these really thin lines of these sort of pine needles that are on this tree. And I'll show you the little hairs that kind of look like hair, right? What I found is that if you dip a toothpick inside paint, it's good for one, maybe one line. So I've decided that instead of using it as a paintbrush, I'm using it more as a stamp. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm dipping my toothpick inside my black paint and I'm sort of getting it, see, what's a good way to see it? A little way up. Like it's not just at the end, it's sort of partially up, making sure that I don't have too much paint. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to find a spot where I want my little needles. And I'm just going to put it sideways and I'm going to pull it outwards. And I'm going to rotate my toothpick and I'm going to almost like stamp the paint on and then I'm going to pull the toothpick through. And so it's kind of a very complicated procedure, as you can see, to make these little tiny lines. And I'm not necessarily painting, I'm just pulling my stick through the paint to make these lines. And when I run out of paint, I can just dip it back in and I can pull it through. Anywhere where you want these fuzzy leaves, pull, 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 you can pull that black paint through. If that is too frustrating for you, if you feel like you don't have all day and you don't want to do that, you can take your regular paintbrush, get it nice and dry, and flatten the tip in the black paint. And to get the tip flat, I just go in the same direction over, flip it over, and I pull it against the side of the plate so that my brush is as flat as it can be, like as pointy as possible, right? So I want to make sure it's pointy as possible. And then I can kind of take my bristle on the side and I could pull it out into thin lines. But once you push down on that and you lose that edge, you've got to go flatten it again. So you can choose if you want to use the toothpick method or if you want to keep getting your brush flat in the black paint. Lots of water, I think, will help make that black paint. And then you can pull down those needles, those needle designs. You can put those pine needles anywhere you want. It's totally up to you. But you want to keep them as thin and as small as
not a lot of them.
Yeah, this tree has a lot. You can put however many or however few you want. Maybe you just want to keep yours in the roots. You know, maybe that's what you want to do. It's totally up to you. Maybe you want some here. If you're feeling really brave, maybe you want to give your owl some little feather ears thingies, maybe little owl eyes, owl nose, some owl feathers. What? Okay. So basically this is what I'm going to leave you with. You get to finish your branches. You get to finish your pine needles any way that you want. Notice that there is some in the white. There's some here in the red. There's some on the bottom. There's some at the top. Remember, the top left side is kind of bare, doesn't have a lot, but the other sides seem to have a lot. So you get to play with that. This was my final result when I did this yesterday in the sunshine. So I used toothpicks the whole time. It took me forever, but it was kind of fun. You get to decide what that's going to look like. And when you're done, hopefully you can send me a picture and we can post it on our page or put it in our art slideshow, which I haven't done yet, which means you still have time. You still have time to submit pictures of your art to the Crestwood PTA at cwpta.com so that we can put it in our slideshow. Parker or Hayden, I can't see whose face.
Do you mean?
Okay, one more time.
Are we supposed to do the walkway too?
So, oh, you mean in terms of branches and needles? Yeah.
No, but like, you know how the walkway on the white?
The thing that you think looks like a walkway, it could be a walkway. It could also be, think this is a mountain. It could also be the mountain behind it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Could you make the lines on it?
Yes, absolutely. Because that's because you could have, I mean, I could have another branch right here, right? Going through. And then those could have those needles on them. Uh-oh, now I've done it. I had some black on my brush. So now I've got a little bit of black on my tree. That's okay. It gives it a little bit of shade and texture. Okay. All right. So you do however you want to do it. And I really think that's it. We are significantly over time. Yes.
Can you show your mine? Mine's look like a volcano, and I added some wings to my
Oh,
owl.
that's very cool. Those are great. These are fantastic. If you can you hold up what you have done so far so I can see where you are before I go? That's beautiful. Lovely.
I'm not adding some needles.
These are amazing. The colors on these are amazing.
I'm going to nap.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go and hopefully I will see those pictures emailed to us.
Bye. You're going, so bye.
Bye, echoing.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I thank you.
Thank you.